Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. Be sure to comment your thoughts on the comics, like, subscribe, because it really does help the channel. I also do have a Kickstarter going on right now for the Comic Shop television show, the web show that was funded through Kickstarter about a Black-owned comic book store comedy, Abbott Elementary style. We are doing the comic book tie-in to that show. So if you really like the show or that show sounds interesting to you, go check it out on YouTube. Go check out our Kickstarter. We would love to see more people get to check out this book and the show. Now let's jump into my haul. Number 12 for me is Wonder Woman issue 25. I told you guys I was gonna drop this book, and I'll say, yeah, now I'm finally dropping it. The reason I stood with this was because a new villain was being introduced in this issue, and that villain was just showed up in the end of those pages and did not play a big part in this issue. It was more about the mouse people, and you get a little bit of an emotional thread for that and why this girl is saying this all the time, but it just didn't do it for me. This is like the fourth issue in a row where half the dialogue is the same words over and over again. Great artwork, but I just could not get into the story. So giving that 2 stars, and then it's number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is already the topic of the video, and that's Skinbreaker's issue 1. I was really looking forward to this because I do like Kirkman's writing. I have not seen David Finch in a while, especially on interior art, so I was really excited for the hype of this book. But for me, I feel like it was written so much for a trade. This issue did not have that much. It took a while to kind of get to the point where we get to see these kids go through this kind of ceremony. If their skin breaks, great. If it doesn't, then, you know, something happens to the children. And we get to learn a little bit about the culture and the community that's in this issue, but not enough for me to sink my teeth into these characters or even the premise. And I like the art because I like David Finch, but I thought the coloring was just way too yellow. And again, I thought it was really slow for a first issue. A first issue is supposed to grab you. It's supposed to be like, I can't wait for the second issue, and I just did not get that here. Maybe this will be a better trade read, but you know, sometimes you can't rely on the trade. If it's a better trade read, maybe it should have been a graphic novel in the first place. I know Firepower did that actually, where the whole first chapter was a graphic novel and then went into the issue ones. Maybe that would have been a stronger start for this. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Green Lantern issue 27. I'll say this kind of feels more like a tie-in to the comic book than the next part to this event, and that's mostly because it only focuses on one Lantern, and that's John Stewart. And this is Green Lantern, that's normally a Howl book, and usually John Stewart plays a bigger part in Core, so I thought this would have been a better chapter for Core. It's an interesting issue where we get to see John willing to sacrifice himself for the rest of the Lanterns. I enjoyed that. It's just, as someone who's not a huge John Stewart fan, I also didn't feel as connected to the issue as someone who's kind of following Green Lantern for Hal Jordan. So overall, giving this one 3 stars, not bad, but also, again, kind of felt more like a tie-in than a main part to this event. And also felt more like a Green Lantern Core issue. Moving on, and I gave that one 3 stars. Moving on to number 9, which is Battleworld issue 1. I'll say I wasn't a huge fan of Battleworld when it first came out, but it's been a while, and I'm like, all right, let's see what these alternate universe characters have to do with each other. It's pretty much what the title tells you. It's alternate universes, characters coming together to fight each other. If you like action, I think you'll enjoy this. I think the artwork was solid enough. I thought the characters they picked were solid enough. Because there's so many comics out there, this was hard for me to be like, you need to get this issue or you need to get the next issue, because it's kind of just there. It is just an action issue with these handful of alternate reality characters. So if I have a small week, the issue 2 comes out, I might get it, but for the most part, I think this was a little bit forgettable. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 9. So moving on to number 8, which is Ultimate Spider-Man issue 21, a bit lower than Ultimate Spider-Man usually is. It's usually in my top 5. And the reason being is that we're going to get the end of this series soon, or at least this creative team, and this kind of felt fillerish up until the end. It's building the villains, building Negative Man for some reason, as we, I guess, make Kingpin a bigger threat against Gwen. We don't really see Peter at all here. We get to see a little of J. Jonah Jameson and the paper with Uncle Ben. And of course, the ending does make it. I do like that Gwen kind of blows up and you don't know what happens to the rest of her league here. So I like that. I just don't know if I like the build up towards it. And because there's so few issues, it's hard to have a filler issue like this because you want to use as much real estate as possible as we get to the end of the series. So again, not a bad issue, just was a slower issue for me until we got to that ending. So giving that 3 stars, and that was number 8. So moving on to number 7, which is Death of the Silver Surfer, issue 4. I believe this is the penultimate issue. I've been really liking this series. I feel like not a lot of people have been talking about it, but I really like Norrin's relationship with this girl who has been the villain up to this point, where her mom is sacrificed because of the choices she makes. And I thought that made it for a very interesting issue, all while tying into the bigger Silver Surfer mythos. So I just thought it was a really solid issue, and I like the emotion behind the death of Silver Surfer, because that's what's going to make a death impactful, is if you have emotion behind it. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Power Rangers TMNT issue 2. This is the 3rd part of the series. And what I really liked about this issue, and the series in general, as someone who's not a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, I feel every issue is very new reader friendly. And also I like that it keeps reinventing itself. We're already up to like 15 issues of this thing, and every issue feels new and fresh, and they're doing something cool with the crossover. Like here we get to see Shredder as Power Ranger, and then you also get to see the rest of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles interacting with the Power Rangers, dealing with the death of Splinter. There's a lot of interesting character moments that I think Parrot does a really great job at, while again having those bigger mythos moments like having the villain become a Power Ranger and seeing these villains team up in the first place. So I just feel like it's a really fun event, either if you like TMNT, Power Rangers, or both. I just really have a fun time with this series. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Black Cat issue 2. I really like where this book is building towards. I enjoy this truly being an anti-hero book where she doesn't quite care to be a hero, but she's not a villain either. And she kind of falls into this heroism, and the rest of New York kind of reacting to that, especially the Spider-World. J. Jonah Jameson's kind of interacting with that. Daredevil is too. It's just a really fun issue where G. Willow Wilson, you can tell again, is kind of building to something bigger with the characters that she's building, and just Black Cat in general and her voice. I've been really enjoying, with some splendid art. I just love when a world is kind of built for a single character. And again, I think G. Willow Wilson's such an expert at that, as we saw with Miss Marvel, and we're now seeing with Black Cat. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Emma Frost's White Queen issue 4, another penultimate issue. I'm not usually the one to say that every X-Men needs to have a solo series, but when you have series like this, you're like, oh, I kind of get why some of the X-Men need solo series, because I like that this is really its own thing because it's placed in another time period. I like that her status as a White Queen is on the line, all while she's interacting with people from her past and people familiar like Mystique, as we're seeing the White Queen kind of not be the White Queen anymore. And I love the art. The art is so crisp for this one. I like the setting of the casino. It was just a really fun issue, and a good character issue for Emma, but also a great way to use setting and these antagonistic characters. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, and this one's a bit higher than it has been for this arc, and that's Superman issue 30. If you are really excited for DCKO, I very much recommend you pick up this issue. I feel like it's very much foreshadowing and building to what KO is going to be about. We know KO is also going to be a big Superman event, and what I love about an event is when titles have connected to get to that point, and everything that this title's been building with Darkseid has gotten us to the point of KO. So obviously Lex Luthor and Superman being huge players for that. I like Superman Prime's role here. I enjoyed his antagonistic relationship with Superman. I love the art. Dan Mora just does a splendid job, and I like that this issue just kind of felt bigger than itself. And I think Superman and Joshua Williamson always does a beautiful job at that, and making the world feel bigger, which is what you want from a superhero Big 2 book. So I really enjoyed this one, even as someone who's not a huge Legion of Superhero fan. I think you could just get a lot as a DC fan. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is all new Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider issue 2. I've been really enjoying the mystery, and I like the characters. I like the anger that's building under the surface that we've definitely seen from Gwen before. I thought it was interesting to see her boyfriend and her dad kind of build this relationship as well. And there's this murder mystery going on of like who hurt Cindy, who killed her drummer. And then obviously the villain kind of shows up in the end. I actually like the darker tone for this issue, and I like the world that's building here from an interpersonal standpoint. And I think that's exactly what Gwen has needed. And I'm glad that she has supporting characters, because that's always going to lift her up as she's dealing with these more internal conflicts and external conflicts with this monster hunting everybody. I like classic horror. I enjoy Gwen, so it just kind of hit everything I really enjoyed. So I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars, and that's number 2. Moving on to number 1, and again, just a book that I think kind of hit it all for me, and that is The Thing, issue 5. It's the finale, and it's a pretty simple issue. It's about this girl who has powers. It's someone from the Thing's past, and we learn a little bit of a twist that her uncle is the one who sold her and was trying to sell her for her powers, and the mother kind of goes ballistic with that. But I also love the emotion that's kind of rooted here and the humanity that's rooted here, where it's just this normal mom saying, I don't know what to do with a daughter that's a little different. And I love the Thing kind of guiding her. It's a really simple story, but it's a really emotional story and a really human story, which is what you expect from the Thing and what you expect from a story like Yancey Street. And I love the vibe of Yancey Street and how celebrated the Thing was. And it's interesting because, like, obviously we've seen the Thing and we've seen Yancey Street before, but we've never really seen it to this level because he doesn't get his own series very often. So even though it feels like a story we've seen before, it's not. It's something we don't get to see enough. So that's something I really enjoyed about this series overall. And I just had a really fun time with it. Like I said, it was just a really good character book, and it really stuck the ending, which you know, sometimes miniseries, that's a hard thing to do. So I feel like it was a very satisfying miniseries overall. So giving that 4.5 stars, that is my number 1 pick. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. And last week's viewer pick of the week was Absolute Flash, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.